Well, good morning and welcome to Coach's Corner on this, I was going to say first Saturday of December, but actually second Saturday of December here. And welcome to Hardy's. And we got Bronco boys swimming and diving coming on here in about 15 minutes. Taped an interview with the Little Fork Big Falls Vikings boys basketball team last night. So that's who we got coming up for guests. And let's go back to last night and a game that was heard on K104 and online at rjbroadcasting.com. The Little Fork Big Falls Viking boys basketball team opened their 17-18 season at home against the Lake of the Woods Bears. It had to be one of the latest openings for a team in the whole state. I think they might have been the last team to play a game. The teams were able to play games last Thursday, so over a week late. But hey, better late than never. It was a back-and-forth game early in the game before Lake of the Woods would open up a 5-point lead. Well, at about 10 minutes remaining in the first half, the Vikings then would take over the game. They'd end the half on a 17-6 run, and they led 27-21 at the break. The second half started out much like the first half was, back and forth, both teams kind of getting the feel for it, and then Lake of the Woods went on a big run. They went on an 18-6 run to open up an 8-point lead. They would win by that margin by a final score of 59-51. Matt Kennedy had a huge game for the Vikings. He scored 24, 12 in each half, and try that again. And Logan Maish had 8 points. The LBF Vikings are at MIB on Tuesday, and again, as I mentioned earlier, they will be our guests here in our third segment this morning. The Bronco boys hockey team was at home last night. They took on Iron Range Conference foe, the Hibbing Chisholm Blue Jackets. Gus Lawrenson, for the third straight game, scored a first period goal, and it was tied 1-1 after the first period. The Blue Jackets would score the next 4 goals, 2 each in the second and third period to build a 5-1 lead, and then Lawrenson would get his second goal of the night with less than 5 minutes, but that is close as the Broncos could get. They lose by a final score of 5-2. The 1-4 Broncos right back on their home ice at Bronco Arena tonight as they face Proctor at 7:30. We'll have the pregame at 7:10 on K104 and online at rjbroadcasting.com. The International Falls boys basketball team playing for the second consecutive night, and this time they were on the road in Ely. The Falls trailed 48-30 at the half and lost by a final of 76-61. The Broncos were led by Taylor Wilson, back from his broken foot injury. He scored 17 points, including 5 3-pointers. Armando Barrios had 15, Tanner Buttress 10, as the Broncos are now 0-4 on the season. The International and they will be at home on Thursday against Eveleth Gilbert. The Bronco girls hockey team on a big road trip down to central Minnesota as they were in Princeton last night, and they were outscored 2-1 in the first period, 2-1 in the third period. That was sandwiched around a scoreless second period, and the Broncos lose by a final score of 4-2 to Princeton, Becker, Big Lake. Those are 3 fairly big schools that are all combined together there, so take that into account. I know nobody likes moral victories and everything like that, but I think a 4-2 game there was very good for the Broncos. Amber Thielander did score both goals for the Falls, and Grace Wegner stopped 28 of 32 shots she faced. The 2-3-1 Bronco girls are in Wilmer this afternoon for a 2:30 game. The Fort Frances boys hockey team is up in Brandon, Manitoba this weekend. They played their second of 2 games on Friday, and they won by a score of 4-1 over St. Paul's out of Winnipeg. Eric Pitkanen, Caleb Breer, Mike Ward, and John Bush scored for the Fort, and they will now face Sturgeon Heights this afternoon at 2 o'clock. Sturgeon Heights is the only team to defeat the Muskies this season, and if I remember right, a pretty chippy game, so I'll be very interested to see how things go this afternoon, following along on Twitter, seeing how things are going there. The Fort Frances Lakers are playing a home-and-home with Thief River Falls this weekend. Thief River Falls, the number 1 team in the SIJHL, and the Norskies came out and scored 3 times in the first 13 minutes before Julian Oroniak scored with 9 seconds remaining on the power play for Fort Frances. That's what as close as the Fort Frances Lakers would get. 2 more goals for Thief River Falls. They win by a final of 5-1. Game 2 tonight is over in Thief River Falls. Game starts at 7 o'clock. The Rainy River women's and men's basketball teams had their first home games of the season last night. The women won over Anoka Ramsey by a final score of 75-63. I don't have any individual stats, did not receive anything, so best I can do there. They host Riverland at 1 o'clock this afternoon. The Rainy River men built a 43-31 lead over Anoka Ramsey and then went on to hang on and win by a final score of 75-70. Jean-Paul Schifino and Devarius Wright each scored 20 points to lead the Voyagers, and the men are right back on their home court this afternoon. That game's scheduled to start again at 3 o'clock against Riverland. Let's head over to high school sports from the area. Let's start with boys hockey. Cloquet Esco Carleton 12, Hopkins 0. Pine City beats Moose Lake 8-1. Grand Rapids, big bounce back. They beat Roseau 2-1 up in Roseau. Eveleth Gilbert 6-3 over Northern Lakes. Excuse me. Virginia Mountain Iron Buell was in Warroad last night. They get a 5-2 win over Warroad, and those two schools will switch places today. So Grand Rapids will be in Warroad. Virginia MIB will be in Roseau. Hermantown loses in overtime to Eden Prairie by a score of 5-4. Girls hockey last night, Eveleth Gilbert 5-0 over the St. Paul Blades. Duluth 4-2 over Benilde St. Margaret's. Proctor Hermantown 3-2 over Northfield on the road. Red Wing loses to Duluth Marshall down there, and I believe that Proctor Hermantown and Duluth Marshall will switch places and play those other schools this afternoon. Brainerd beat Bemidji 6-2 and Roseau 7-0 over Buffalo. In boys basketball last night, Cook County edges Two Harbors by a score of 63-60. Got to make sure I got these right. Yes, Pequot Lakes 54-43 over Proctor. Hermantown loses to Matamidi 80-57. Detroit Lakes 70-47, better than Aiken. Chisholm 90. Northeast Range 28. Remember the Chisholm Blue Strakes were here earlier in the week. Man, can they get up and down the floor? They are fun to watch. Deer River 81. Nashua Keewatin 69. McGregor 16 points better than Floodwood. Virginia 59-38 over Greenway. Moose Lake Willow River against Barnum, whatever sport they're playing, doesn't matter. They could be playing tiddlywinks. It's going to be a big game. Moose Lake Willow River 47, Barnum 44, and Duluth East loses to Fridley 72-58. In girls basketball last night, Two Harbors 82-29 over Cook County. Hitting 73, Princeton 62. Pequot Lakes Proctor, what a game this must have been. 71-69 in favor of Pequot Lakes. Silver Bay defeats Duluth Denfeld 48-34. And Duluth Marshall, maybe one of the best teams in Section 7 2A. They'll be in the mix at the end of the season. So will Virginia, 64-50. So Virginia loses to Duluth Marshall. That means they were in Duluth last night. They're in here in the Falls tonight. And, of course, you got to make a pick. You're going to go watch boys hockey or girls basketball. I'd love to be in both places because I think the girls basketball game is going to be awesome, but I'll be over in Bronco Arena broadcasting that basketball game, or that hockey game. Let's head to the college ranks in college hockey last night. In the men's Big Ten, Michigan State 5-0 over Michigan. Ohio State defeats the Gophers 2-1 in overtime, and Notre Dame 3-2 over Wisconsin. Notre Dame, remember, in the Big Ten this year and ranked 4th now in the nation. Number 1, Denver and Colorado College tie at 4. North Dakota and St. Cloud State. North Dakota 5th ranked, South St. Cloud State ranked 2nd. What a game that was. I got to watch the end of that last night. Tied at 2. North Dakota does win in the shootout. Nebraska Omaha 7-5 over UMD last night. Well, that was a shootout. And Miami 5-2 over Western Michigan. And Bemidji State 1-1 tie with Northern Michigan. Mankato State 5-1 over Lake Superior State. In the women's WCHA last night, number 1 ranked Wisconsin 1-0 over St. Cloud. UMD and Minnesota, they tie at 3, and then UMD wins in the shootout. Bemidji State 5-2 over IRT. Those scores in women's basketball, or excuse me, in women's hockey. Gopher volleyball team last night was in the Sweet 16, and they lose to USC. The Gophers came in ranked 7th, USC 10th, and the Gophers lose in 3 sets. The Gophers had played in back-to-back Final Fours, and it sure looked like they had a great chance to do that. The Big Ten went 3-3 yesterday, so they've got 3 teams playing this afternoon and this evening for a chance to go to the Final Four. All 4 of those matches will be on ESPNU today, so if you're a volleyball fan, sit down about noon and 10 hours later, you might be done with those 4 matches. What a game the Wild played last night. I also had a chance to watch the end of that game. Matt Dumba does it again in overtime as for the second straight overtime game for the Wild. He scores the game winner as they defeat Anaheim 3-2. Jason Zucker tied it at 1 in the second period, and Zach Mitchell gave the Wild a 2-1 lead late in the second before the Ducks would force overtime with a third period goal. The Wild right back on the ice on Sunday evening, and you can... and that game is at 8 o'clock our time, and they will be at San Jose. What's going on today locally? Fort Francis boys hockey, as I mentioned, 2 o'clock up in Brandon, Manitoba as they take on Sturgeon Heights. Rainy River over at the college, 1 and 3 o'clock games for the women and the men. The girls hockey team in Wilmer at 2:30. The Lakers are in Thief River Falls at 7 o'clock. The girls basketball team from the Falls at home against Virginia at 7:15, and the Bronco boys hockey team at 7:30 tonight at home against Proctor. Division FCS football, of course, they're down to the final 8 teams. North Dakota State takes on Wolford at 11 a.m. That game is on ESPN2. You can just about imagine where I'll be at that time. Of course, our good friend Mike Bolstead going to watch that game, then drive all the way home and be on the radio with me tonight to do the Bronco hockey game, so we're looking forward to that. South Dakota State, also from the upper Midwest here, they take on New Hampshire at 2 o'clock. In those games, of course, the Division II will have their 2 semifinals today, and Division III has their 2 semifinals today. Of course, tomorrow the Vikings 10-2, looking to add to that their win total and keep this winning streak going. They're in Carolina tomorrow at noon, 11 a.m. the pregame on K104. The Wolves are at home against Dallas tomorrow at 6 o'clock, and as I mentioned, the Wild are in San Jose at 8 o'clock. What about our former Broncos? Well, Clara Palm, Lexi Graves, and Casey Myers, they're off until, I believe, after the holiday break here with the Rainy River women's hockey team. Amy Orrin with the River Falls women's hockey team, they lost to Gustavus on Wednesday by a final score of 4-3. They get the rematch at home tonight. Lexi Edwards got a pair of goals last night for Sacred Heart as they defeated Lebanon Valley 11-0. The rematch is this afternoon. Lucas DeBenedict and the Northland men's hockey team, they beat Eau Claire 4-2 on Tuesday, and now they are off until after Christmas, till the 30th of December. Abby Koshik and the Moorhead State women's swimming and diving team, they are also off until after the holidays. Let's take a break, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk to the Broncos swimming and diving team. You're listening to Coach's Corner, live from Hardee's on K104 and online at rjbroadcasting.com. Welcome back to Coach's Corner, joined by the members of the Bronco just swimming team, really. No divers this morning, right?
Not here.
No divers. So if I only say swimming, I don't want anybody yelling at me or getting on my case. Not that anybody does. Only one person. Dick Oster always gets on to me about saying just Bronco track. It's track. It's track and field. You can't forget the field events. And Coach says, what's that?
I'm a thrower, so I'm going to take offense to that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Head coach Steve Joslin, and do I know you guys at all? Have you ever?
Yeah.
Have I ever seen you guys before? Like every day of my life. Ben Keeney and Alex Bellinger joining me here. We might talk a little calculus along the way. If that might come up once or twice. What? Did I hear? I thought I heard a girl in there. Come on, it's the best.
It's the weekend.
It's the Coach, we were just talking in the break here about we're lifting on Saturday mornings. Is this a one-day-a-week thing? Is this a maybe 2 days, maybe like Wednesdays and Saturdays? What's kind of the plan going in? Or am I giving you ideas?
No, we're doing it 3 days a week.
3 days a week?
Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday.
Okay.
Yep.
And
new this year, the guys were asking last year, and I said if we get enough committed, absolutely, we'll do this.
And what kind of response have you gotten?
Every day, I think we've had somebody new every day, and we're 6+ swimmers every morning. So that's really good for our size of group.
And you're both nodding your heads in agreement, so you think this is a good idea.
Yeah.
Even though it's cutting into your Saturday morning sleep pattern, this is a good thing, Alex Bellinger.
Yeah, I think so. Especially, I mean, we haven't had that in years, so to start strength training during the season, I think will be really good for everybody.
Ben, you agree?
Yeah, I think it allows you to work on stuff that you can't get in the pool, you know.
And what kind of things are those? Because, you know, I'm not a swimmer from way back in the day, so what is it going to help you to do? Is it going to be more stamina, going faster? What do you think is going to be the benefits of it?
I think probably strength, you know, just the power more. Because you get the endurance and the form in the pool. That's hard to get out of the pool, but, you know, you can focus more on the muscle groups. You can isolate them, you know, strengthen them.
Coach, is there certain lifts that really help swimmers? Is there something that you're trying to focus on? Because as a football coach, you know, I'm thinking about bench pressing, because as an offensive lineman, you got to press out, and you know, you get your glutes going, so you're going to be out there doing some squats and power cleans and those kinds of things. What is it, the kind of lifts that make swimmers better swimmers?
Well, it is kind of rounding out the whole body, of course, in the pool. But once you get to in the weight room, we are kind of focusing a little more on core exercises, more than just flip turns. You know, you have to work multiple levels. So the weight room allows you to do that more specifically. And there's 5 kind of muscle groups that we're trying to target in there. So, you know, again, the guys were right. They've been asking for it. This as I've been learning the ropes, my third year now, we're
Yeah.
like taking on a little more and saying, yeah, absolutely, let's do this. And we have a very good team this year, so it's fun to work it even harder.
So we're in Hibbing on Thursday night for the scrimmage, the hitting
Yep.
relays. Is that all they swim? Is the relays?
Only relays. Yeah, it's a lot of
Some
fun.
made up ones, obviously.
Yeah.
It's not just like the three relays from
like what are the made up ones? Like you got to swim like with only one arm or
there's
something?
The 1,000 distance relay.
Yeah, so there's a 500, two 200s, and then a 100.
I like that.
To get a
That's-
500 into
that-
a relay meet, or there's a 300, or no, it'd be 200 fly. Two guys swim 50s, one guy swims 100 fly, and do it for the backstroke also.
Different distances for each swimmer. Instead of 4x100 or 4x50, it's a 50, 200, 250, whatever. It's kind of a fun made-up meet.
Yeah,
Breaks the ice.
breaks the ice and
Yep.
gets a lot of kids involved, I'm sure, and allows them to swim in
Yeah.
some different events. So how did things go, Coach?
Oh, it was awesome. It was so much fun to see the excitement. You know, and I think the other part of the relays is for new swimmers, they're not so pressured because there's 4 other guys going to be jumping into the pool, and there's so much action going on, so it takes a little of that pressure off of them. That's what I mean about breaking the ice.
Sure, yeah.
It really lets them kind of just jump in and get going and get those jitters out right away.
Good for the old guys, though, too, Alex Bellinger, because you've been doing this for years. It's a good meet for the old guys, too.
Yeah, I think it's really great for the old guys to help the younger guys go, and then obviously we can jump into our events without all the pressure right away. It was a bit rusty, but
I thought you told me that you had a pretty good 50 free time. Didn't you tell me that?
yeah, I mean, that's a sprint though. So I mean, that's just being stronger. But when it came to my endurance, has definitely got some work cut out for me.
So you're telling me that 100 butterfly it needs some work.
Yeah, a little cleaning up.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, if you will, but I'm going in my memory banks. This is what we went to the state meet in last year, the 100 butterfly. Mm-hmm. And I know we talked about this the other day as well, that it was like 57 seconds?
Yeah, it's a 57
Something.
7 something, I think.
50
I don't remember.
Okay, so early on in the ball game, this is a goal, right? Obviously to get back.
Yeah.
And it's obviously a goal to cut into that time. So early in the season, I always talk to the teams about this. Goals. What have you set for yourself
Well,
as far as that event goes, and then everything else as well?
As far as that event, I want to break the school record.
Which is
a 55-4
by
by
State. Yeah.
who's got the record? You know who you're going after,
Kian
right?
Hoffman, I think.
See?
Yeah, from like 1970 something.
77.
1970.
It's the oldest record on the board. So
So that fuels the fire a little bit.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean it's 2 seconds off of what I've done before, so I think I've got a real good shot at it.
Okay.
Work hard.
And what else? What other goals do you have? What other events would you like to see Coach put you into and for your senior season and make it a great 17-18 season?
I'm aspiring backstroker. I want to try and get somewhere with my backstroke, my 100 backstroke, and see what I can do there. Because I feel like if I put some effort into that too, I can really open that up and hopefully. I don't know. It seems like it's the most realistic other record on the board.
Oh, I see. He's record-seeking coach. That's what.
Perfect.
Well,
Goals.
seventh grade, I told Joe Barron, who holds 2 records. He's the
I
best
remember
swimmer.
Joe.
I'd be better than him someday. So if I get 2 records, then I'm tied with him, right?
There you go.
He's got 2 records.
There you go. That's a great way of thinking about it. So, obviously the record sits out there, but is there something else? Is there goals beyond high school as far as swimming? I mean, are you thinking about going swimming when you go off to college and leave home and go someplace, or is that no?
I don't know. I'm still thinking about it and trying to figure it out. Maybe club swimming would be good for me for sure, just to stay in shape and.
Well, you seem to love it.
Still compete, yeah. So that'd be cool.
Ben, how about for you? What do you see as for individual goals for yourself in this 2017-18 season?
I think this year I'm going to try and drop my breaststroke time down to like a 110 if I can. It'll be a little bit of a fight, you know. Started off the season not exactly where I wanted to, but a little bit more effort into it. Hoping to drop it down. Maybe drop my 50 freestyle down to below a 26 if I could.
Okay.
But yeah.
Coach is nodding his head. He likes
Yeah.
that, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And, of course, I suppose you're going to swim a couple relays.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So those are the 2 individual events. Coach can't put you in any others?
Correct. We have
Correct.
2 individuals and 2 relays.
That's
Or,
why everybody usually swims, not 3 and 1. I'm asking.
There's,
Times it happens. I've done it.
I would say usually the younger guys end up being in the relays
Sure.
more than 2 individuals.
Absolutely.
But these seniors and captains, the more experienced guys, are back into the individuals 2 and 2. Just depends on our meet and what we're trying to accomplish.
So you were talking before we went on. You talked about that the team is full. That you can actually excuse me, put in a full event, because I don't know, the first year, a couple years ago, and I'm going off my memory, maybe 12 to 15 guys on the team. So what's a full group that you're talking about, and who are some of these young bucks that are coming up through the ranks?
Well, it takes a minimum of 16 swimmers to fill if they can swim every stroke.
Okay.
So even though we may have had a larger team in the past, they maybe couldn't swim every stroke, so
Sure.
we left some of the events open. This year we've got everybody pulling together, and we have a smaller team, 21 guys, but it's enough to fill every event with 3 guys. So we have a real good chance of getting some more points and really making these meets a close to a win.
Yeah.
That's
So
our team goal, of course. Swimmers haven't had a winning meet in 7 years, so I think this is our time.
So Chisholm coming up on Thursday at home, 4:30 at the Falls High. Should I natatorium? Should I get technical?
Yeah.
Yep.
I remember reading through the newspaper articles the first when I did the history book, and the first thing I opened it up, 1974, and didn't say pool, it said natatorium, and I'm like,
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah.
that sounds
Official.
That sounds pretty official. So,
Yeah.
what are our chances on Thursday night, Alex?
Well, they got some fast guys, so it's just going to be doing well in the relays, I think, and then hitting those spots where they don't really have people at. I think our team's bigger than theirs. Finally, after all these years I've been in swimming, we've never had a team that's been bigger than
Okay.
a team like that. So I think that's going to be big.
Who are some of these young guys, Ben, that coach is talking about filling in some of these spots? Some of these maybe 8th, 9th, 10th graders, now that you're so old and getting a little gray hair and everything. Who are some of these young guys I should be looking at saying, wow, this kid's going to be good?
See, for the new guys, we got Ben.
Yeah,
And then
the
Trig.
new guys, we have
Right.
Trig Hempstead,
Yeah. Ben Smith.
Ben Smith, Aaron Matassa, and of course Eric Early. It's his first
Yeah.
year.
Eric Early,
Yeah.
he talked about how much fun he had at the meet on Thursday.
Yeah,
It's good to have Earl
that's
there.
good.
Always good to have Earl anywhere,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Who else? You got any other?
Well, we got some like 9th graders coming up and freshmen. Jake Slatinsky and Gavin Wilson are looking really good, and that's
Yep.
kind of I want, as my senior year now, I'm not going to be back next year, so I want to make sure that every day in practice I'm pushing them as hard as they can so they know what to do when we're not there. Because, I mean, all of them seniors, even they'll pretty much be the oldest guys on the team. Really, they'll be leading practice.
Yeah,
so-
they'll be the
Getting close.
backbone.
Getting very close. And then we also have Adrian Manassa, who's a well-rounded swimmer.
He's going to be a star.
Okay.
He helps the JV guys immensely.
So we got the home meet on Thursday, and then we go to Masabi East, and then we got a home invitational over Christmas
On the 30th.
on Saturday the 30th. How many teams coming to town, Coach? Do we know?
7 teams.
7 teams. What times everything gets started?
We get started at 11 o'clock is for diving. Diving will be held first and then swimming.
Okay. And so who's all coming up? Is it mostly Section 6? Yeah, Section 6, right? I got to keep
Section 6A.
6A.
Yeah.
I got to
Yeah.
keep everything straight. Where the team's coming up?
Everyone was invited. I believe there's just 1 or 2. I think Duluth is not coming this year.
Okay.
Otherwise, everybody else has been invited, and I've got good report from everybody. I just don't have it confirmed that they're
Sure.
all coming yet.
Guys, wish you best of luck. Thanks for coming in this morning. Well, I'm looking forward to Thursday's meet. I'll be there to warm up before going to do the basketball game and get all toasty. So
Oh boy.
you can hardly wait.
Yeah.
And then we got to do a post.
I can't remember last time you watched my fly. I always want you to come and
Yeah.
you're like, well, I got to be somewhere else.
The pressure,
cheer 'em on.
the pressure of being the radio guy.
Yeah.
It is. Alex Bellinger, Ben Keeney, and head coach Steve Joslin joining me here. We'll take a break and we'll come back with the interview I taped with the Little Fork Big Falls Viking boys basketball team. You're listening to Coach's Corner, live from Hardy's on K104 and online at rjbroadcasting.com. Yes. Welcome back to Coach's Corner, joined by members of the Little Fork Big Falls Viking boys basketball team. Head coach Dave Westerman and Matt Kennedy and Mason Borman joining me, and we're taping this right after the 59-51 loss. Coach, talk a little bit about your impressions of what you saw during the game.
I mean, we always get a lot of effort out of these guys. That's something that we're not lacking for sure. It's first game, so we know there's going to be things to improve on, and this is a good benchmark for us. Now we can look at film and critique and go from there.
You guys, it was a back and forth game early. I just got done saying this on our post game show, and then you guys fell behind and then came back with a nice 8-0 run, took the lead, and it looked like to me the 1-2-2 defense that we talked about during the pregame show made a difference, and you guys went in with a halftime lead. But it was tough to keep that momentum. What do you think changed early in the second half, Coach?
Rebounding was a huge issue. We lost the battle of the boards there for about 5-6 minutes in the second half, and that lost us that 6-point lead we'd had at halftime. Fought back and made it close. I looked at stats at the end of the game, and I think we lost the battle of the boards by 6 or 7. So cut it back, but way too many offensive rebounds for them.
Mason, this is a team that Coach and I talked about in the pregame show that's pretty small. There's not a whole lot of big guys on this. And we talked about the fact of going to the 1-2-2. You probably were going to give up some rebounds and those kinds of things. What can the boys do to try to focus in and maybe get a little bit better on the boards?
We just need to box out more and try to find the man and get a body on him. Just keep him out of the paint.
It sounds so simple, Mason. Yeah, just find a body and do that. But you're watching the basketball go up and you turn and you're looking to see, well, is it going in? Which way is it going to go? And then you got to box your guy out. And when you're playing man to man, you got a hand on the guy. It's not so hard. When you're in the zone, it makes it a little bit tougher. Matt, you're feeling it, especially in the first half. I thought the shot was going in, especially from the baseline. Is that kind of your place to shoot from?
I don't really know. I just got to open space, and my teammates did very, very well, passing me the ball and making good plays and finding open space as well. And it just worked out, I guess.
Okay, don't look at Coach when I ask this question. Don't look at him before you answer. Don't look at him, and I'm not even going to look at him. I'm going to put my hands up. Are you guys directed not to shoot the three? Because it looked like you guys had some open opportunities, but maybe you passed them by.
I know we were shooting the ball from the three-point line, and we were not doing well from it, and we should have taken a lot better shots and drove more, and we were struggling with the three-pointer for a while, so we kind of turned away from that and then took some jump shots because it was better shot selection and went in for that.
Wow. Yeah. That's from a sophomore, right?
The kid couldn't have took it better out of my mouth.
Yeah. That is well said. And of course, I'm the announcer, so I get to play the devil's advocate a little bit, Mason, during the game. And I'm sitting there, they need to shoot some more threes. But like Matt said, they weren't falling. So you guys try to be more aggressive. What do you guys look to do? Is it the dribble penetration, Mason, that this team needs to get better at? Is it maybe hitting that mid-range jumper? What do you feel like maybe can help the half-court offense for the Vikings?
Yeah, I feel like the dribble penetration should get better for us, and the jump shots, we got to find better selection there, and I think that'll really help us if we figure those two things out.
Coach, it sounds to me like these boys are listening.
They sure are. We talked after the game about in-between shots. It's not really a layup, it's not really a jumper, and it's more of a throw. That's something we can definitely improve on. So I'm glad they're listening, and hearing this makes me happy.
So what's coming up on the schedule, Coach? We were just talking about it before we started the taping this interview, that you guys are on the road for a month. So who's coming up?
We got a road trip, starts with Greenway and MIB next week. So have a long road there to go take on some tough teams, some good competition. And over Christmas break, we also go up to the Falls, so have that nice rivalry game. So that's always a fun one.
Well, in that game, that I was talking about it. That game, girls at 5:15, boys at 7:15. The place ought to be packed to the gills with everybody being home. What do you guys look most forward to, Mason, when you guys play the Broncos and the Vikings?
Well, it's always a good game, so it's going to be a lot of fun. And just the competition's fun to play against. It's fun.
Is it more because the two towns are so close in proximity, or is it because everybody knows everybody?
I think it's because we know everybody. We're all kind of friends, so it makes it a lot more fun to play against them.
Games coming up, Matt. We talked about the games with Greenway and MIB next week. What do you know about those two teams?
I know they're pretty good. We're gonna have to play some ball and do things right and play some ball.
If I remember right, Greenway's got DeChambeau coming back. Is he only a sophomore this year, or is he finally a junior?
I think he's a junior this year.
Finally a junior. He seems like he's been around forever. Obviously, he's a big, tall kid, and you guys, we talked about, don't have much size. So is that something more where you, again, maybe try to pack in the zone, or is it something where maybe you try to double team them? What's maybe the philosophy?
We're definitely going to try to pack it in the lane. We need to pick our poison. If they're hitting from the outside, that's something we can live with, but giving up those offensive rebounds, giving up layups to him, it's gonna balloon. So we really need to focus on the post.
It seemed like tonight, going back to tonight's game, Mason, that Lake of the Woods kind of played with no fear. They were ahead at the end of the ball game, and maybe they needed to milk a little bit of the clock, and they hit some tough shots on you guys. They seemed to be not afraid to shoot the three, but then at the same time they weren't afraid to shoot the jumper. So if you started running out at them, boom, they go by you. How tough was that, especially in game one, Mason, to try to deal with that?
Yeah, that was really tough to guard because they were being clutch. They were hitting some good shots at the end of the game. It's tough to guard when they're going to drive if you don't give them the shot. So it was pretty tough to guard at the end there.
Matt, what did you kind of feel like the number one thing, the best thing that this team did tonight in this basketball game?
Our team?
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like we moved the ball very well and found open space and got some pretty good shots up, but we have to capitalize on those and take better shots.
Okay, what's the one thing that this team most needs to work on between this game and the next game?
Tonight, I would definitely say rebounding. We have to box out big time and take good shots.
We talked about the youth of this team. These obviously are two guys that have been around for a while. How did you feel like your bench played tonight and the guys coming off the bench and a couple of the new starters, Coach?
I thought our bench gave us a huge lift. Kyler Swenson came in, gave us some good minutes. He was injured last year, didn't play at all last season, and came in, got a bucket. Came over and gave the kid a hug and said, "How'd that feel?" And just a smile on his face says it all. Eric Wimmer came in and gave us a lot of energy too. I thought he picked up the rebounding for us a little bit and gave us some of that lift back, and he played very physical. So it was nice to see that.
Is it something where you feel like, and I going back in my brain, I'm trying to think before I ask this, is it something where you try to put Lukin and Wimmer both out on the floor, gives you a little more wider body, maybe takes a little bit of your speed away from the perimeter, but is that something maybe you try to do against these teams who have a bigger person on the inside?
It's something we definitely need to look at. Right now with our 5-out offense, it puts us a little bit behind on our offensive side, but it does help us defensively and rebounding. So it's something we're definitely going to toy around with, and I'm hoping that at least one of those guys can play on the perimeter and we can go 4 out, 1 in.
Well, I thought Eric loved being standing outside the 3-point line. He looked comfortable out there, like he was a guard, right, Matt? You guys are shaking your head. He stood out on that wing like, give me the ball, I'm open. I'm gonna shoot this ball. I'm gonna make something happen. I always ask first interview of the season for the teams. I always say, who are you most looking forward to playing during the season? Which one do you want? Let's take a stab at it. Mason, you ready? Who are you looking forward most to playing this season?
I'd say Big Fork. They're a closer team, so it's more like a rivalry, and they're always a tough team to play against. So I'd say that's my number one game.
I just like playing basketball, but I would have to say probably I would like to get Lake of the Woods big time again, and then yeah, basically.
You know, and I think you're right about that, Matt. You guys get to face them again, right? You guys play them twice, and so to me, it's one of those games where you maybe a little contrast in styles, but you guys are kind of even. It was a fun game tonight. It was an enjoyable game, and I thought for sure you guys were going to make that run. Maybe what was one thing that the Vikings could have done down the stretch differently, and maybe the outcome would have been different, Coach?
You know, I think down the stretch we played very well. There's that, like I said, 5-6 minute blip in the second half where it got out of control for us. I looked up with 3 minutes left, and it's a 2 possession game. We extended the game with fouling that last minute, got it within 2 possessions again, 50-56. Drew up an out-of-bounds play, or I'm sorry, a set out of our offense that we haven't ran since last season, haven't ran it in practice, but I thought, you know what, we need an open look, and they ran it great, executed, we missed the shot. So, I mean, looking at those things, down the stretch, I think we did everything right. They hit free throws, and with about 1:15 left, we'd forced them into a 3-point shot early in their possession. And I looked at the coach when it went in, and he just shook his head. So without that shot and them hitting free throws, I think we take that game.
Guys, thanks for the time. I appreciate it. It was enjoyed the game, and best luck the rest of the way in 2017 and 2018.
Thanks.
Head coach Dave Westerman, Mason Borman, and Matt Kennedy joining me here. We'll take another break, and we'll come back with more Coach's Corner. You're listening on K104 and online at rjbroadcasting.com. Yeah, welcome back to Coach's Corner for our final segment. Thanks to my guests for being the ones that were here this morning, the Broncos swimming and diving team, and of course to the LBF Vikings boys basketball team who stayed late last night. They could have decided they needed to go home, but I appreciated them taking 10 or 12 extra minutes and coming down and talking with me there last night. Let's wrap up the show like we do every week. Let's talk about what happened in the past week. Last Saturday, of course, it really kind of kicked the winter season off in full force last Saturday. Things get crazy. Of course, there's so many things going on. It's kind of one of the reasons why the winter goes quick, and that's why it's so enjoyable. The Bronco bowling team was down in the state tournament. They advanced to the second round, bowled extremely well, according to the reports I heard, and made it into the second round before they finally finished in 14th place. In round one, the Broncos defeated Elk River, Lakeville South, and Irondale, lost to St. Francis and St. Croix Lutheran. In the second round, they got to face St. Francis and Lakeville South again, and they lost to both of them, along with Maple Grove, who I heard was outstanding. And the Broncos finished 14th in the state. A very, very good year for the Bronco bowling team. The Bronco and Titan Wrestlers, remember the Bronco Wrestlers, the three of them are paired up with GNK. So wrestling under that format, they had their first matches of the season in an invitational at Foston. Hudson Man at 132 pounds went 1-2. Chris Berry, at 152 pounds went 0-2, and Noah Mathis at 195 also went 0-2. The Bronco boys hockey team traveled to Virginia last Saturday night, was down there, and that game was the 132nd meeting between the two teams. It was 1-1 after one as Gus Lawrenson scored a goal with the assist going to Trimble Butler. However, Virginia would score 4 power play goals and a shorthanded goal in the last 2 periods to down the Broncos by a score of 7-1. The Rainy River women's basketball team bounced back from a Friday night loss to St. Cloud to defeat Fergus Falls 80-71. Deja Monroe, 35 points in that ball game, 8 rebounds and 5 steals to lead the way. Tequila DeGreat, 12 points and 17 rebounds, and Valon Mobley added 14. The Rainy River men's team also got it back in the win column after a Friday night loss. They absolutely destroyed Fergus Falls 97-66. The Voyagers led by 24 at halftime, 5 players in double figures. Greg Barker 16, Anthony Mera 15, Jesus Alfonso 14, Kevin Melendez 14, and Devarius Wright had 10. No action on Sunday. On Monday, the Bronco Titan Wrestlers right back in action. Got to take part in their first dual meets of the year as they hosted Virginia and Proctor. Hudson Man went 0-2 at 138 this time. Chris Berry went 0-2 at 152, and Noah Mathis won both of his matches at 195 by forfeit. Dual scores against Virginia. GNKIF, can I say it that way? I know they're putting Nashua, Keewatin, Greenway, but I'm going to have a tough time putting it the other way. NKGIF. They lose 54-20 to Virginia, and they lose 54-36 to Proctor Hermantown. On Tuesday, the Bronco boys hockey team got their first win of the season as they beat Evelyn Gilbert 5-2 on the road. Gus Lawrenson again got things started in the first period. If you were listening earlier, he scored a first period goal now in 3 straight games after last night's game. He also added another goal in the second period, and Barrett Kaler had a pair of goals in the second period. Trimble Butler added an insurance goal in the third period for the 5-2 difference. Jake Clow had 31 saves in the win. Bronco girls hockey team got a pair of goals from Amber Thielander, single goals from Emma Erickson and Maria Vollum as they tie Hibbing Chisholm 4-4 at Bronco Arena on Tuesday night. And of course, the big conversation Wednesday in school was the disallowed goal that everybody in the building except the referee said went in the net. Could have been the difference in the hockey game. It was in in the first period, I believe, so lots of things could have changed how that game went. The game was tied 2-2 after 2, 3-3 after, or excuse me, 2-2 after 1. 3-3 after 2, 4-4 after the third period and overtime. Grace Wegner stopped 27 of 31 shots. Bronco girls basketball team got an easy win on the road over Chisholm, 74-32. Emma Gilbert 13, Janet Humbert 12, and Libby Miggins 11. The Broncos were a perfect 8 for 8 from the free throw line, and they made 6 3-pointers by 6 different players in that game as they improved to 2-0 on the season. The Bronco boys basketball team had their first home game of the season as they hosted the Chisholm Blue Streaks. It was an absolute track meet, folks. If you weren't listening to the game on K104 or online at RJ Broadcasting, or you were not in the gym, it was a track meet up and down the floor. Chisholm was scoring in 4 to 5 seconds. They were putting a shot up, and the Broncos never led in the game. They had to tie it a couple of times, and they really stayed in the mix till about the last 5 or 6 minutes of the first half before losing by a final score of 92-74. Max Olson made 6 3-pointers in the game. He had 22 points. Wyatt Broughton had 15, and Charlie Hoppy had 12 off the bench. The LBF girls basketball team got their first win of the season, and under new head coach Mason Imhoff as they defeated Nashua Keewatin 53-13. They held Nashua Keewatin to 4 points in the second half. That's amazing. Emily Franz had 17, and Natalie Knabel had 14 to lead the Vikings. On Wednesday, the Fort Francis girls hockey team was on the road in Dryden. They lost 5-4 in overtime. The Fort led 3-2. Very, very fast start after the first period. It was tied 3-3 after 2. Goals for the Muskies: Jess Steele, Cece Hayes, Siobhan McIntosh, and Lily McKinnon. On Thursday, the Bronco boys basketball team faced one of the Section 7-2A favorites, the Esco Eskimos. They also brought along their 7'3" center, Adam Trapp. He was worth the price of admission if he came over. He didn't maybe make any wow moves, but anytime you get to see somebody 7'3", it's worth the trip. The Broncos stayed in close, had the crowd into it. The place was buzzing. It was 39-29 at the half. However, Adam Trapp absolutely took over the game at the start of the second half. They opened it wide up, and they defeat the Broncos, Esco does, by a final of 81-42. Armando Barrios 14, Max Olson 11, and Tanner Budrus 10. The girls' basketball team was down in Ely for a game. They led by 23 points at half, but hung on to win by 12. Not a good second half, I was told, for the Bronco girls. Jenna Sullivan led the way with 15 points. Janet Humbert had 11, and Grace Gilbert 10. The Bronco Titan Wrestlers were down in Ogilvie for 3 dual meets. They lose to Crosby Arrington 66-18, to Ogilvie 54-24, and to Proctor Hermantown 48-30. Got a little closer to Proctor Hermantown. Hudson Man 1 and 2, in 3 matches at 138. Chris Berry 0-3 at 145 this time around, and Noel Mathis was 1 and 2 at 195. The LBF girls basketball team, they lost to defending Section 7A champions. I think the 7th-time defending Section 7A champions, MIB 88-19. Natalie Knabel led the way with 6 points. The Fort Francis boys hockey team up in Brandon, Manitoba this weekend, they beat Verdun, Manitoba in game 1 by a score of 5-3. Cole Allen and Caleb Breer each scored a pair of goals. Eric Pitkanen scored the other goal for the Muskies. Fort Francis boys basketball team had their first game of the year. They defeated Beaver Bray out of Kenora 71-58 as Aaron Bujold led the way with 20 points for the Muskies. The Fort Francis girls volleyball team also had their first matches of the season. I know it seems a little weird, but the girls volleyball is in the winter over in Canada. They lose in 5 sets to Beaver Bray. Of course, last night, the Little Fork Big Falls Viking boys basketball team, they lose 59-51 to Lake of the Woods. Girls hockey loses to Princeton Becker Big Lake 4-2 down in Princeton. The Bronco boys hockey team loses 5-2 at Bronco Arena to Hibbing Chisholm. Who am I forgetting here? The Bronco boys basketball team lost 76-61 to Ely last night. The Rainy River teams got a sweep of Anoka Ramsey. The women won by 12 and the men by 5. And the Lakers lost to Thief River Falls, and the Fort Francis boys hockey team, they got a big win yesterday as well. What's going on today? Well, as I mentioned earlier, it all gets started this afternoon as the girls hockey team is in Wilmer for a 2:30 game. The Fort Francis boys hockey team, they play at 2 o'clock against the only team that's defeated them this season, Sturgeon Heights. The Rainy River men's and women's basketball teams are at home. The women go at 1 o'clock, the men at 3 o'clock. They are playing Riverland. The girls basketball team for the Broncos is at home tonight in a big IRC match and 7-2A match against Virginia. And then the Bronco boys hockey team is at home against Proctor at 7:30. We'll have that game for you on K104 and online at RJ Broadcasting with the pregame to start at around 7:10. What's going on tomorrow? Well, the Fort Francis boys hockey team will be finishing the tournament up in Brandon. The Fort Francis Curlers will be taking part their first matches of the season as they will be up in Red Lake. On Monday, the 11th, Fort Francis girls hockey team, they'll be at home against Dryden. That game actually will be played in Emo. Tuesday, big day. Girls basketball from International Falls will be in Big Fork to take on that game. We'll have that game on for you with a feed coming out from KMFY. That game pregame will start right around 7 o'clock. The Fort Francis boys basketball teams and girls volleyball teams are at home against Dryden. On Tuesday, the boys and girls hockey teams from Fort Francis are up in Kenora playing St. Thomas Aquinas. The girls hockey team will be at War Road on Tuesday, and the Viking basketball teams, the boys will be at MIB, and the girls will be at home against War Road. The Fort Francis Lakers will be in Dryden on Wednesday night. Thursday night, boys basketball from International Falls. They'll be hosting Eveleth Gilbert. We'll have that game for you on the air at K104 and RJBroadcasting.com starting right around 7 o'clock. The boys swimming and diving team will have their first home meet of the year as they host Chisholm at 4:30. The Fort Francis boys basketball and girls volleyball teams will be at home taking on Beaver Bray on Thursday afternoon, and the Viking basketball teams will be in action. The girls the girls at home against Greenway, the boys at Greenway on Thursday. Friday, the Rainy River basketball team start a tournament down in Brainerd at the Central Lakes tournament. The Bronco girls will be at home to take on Aiken in basketball. We'll have that game for you on the air on Friday night. The girls hockey team will be down in Duluth for a 7:15 matchup against Duluth, and the Lakers will be at home against Dryden on Friday night. On Saturday, boys hockey, they're at home against Kitson Central at 3 o'clock, and the boys hockey team will be down in Virginia on Saturday night. I got to get out of the way. It's almost time for the news at the top of the hour. Thanks to everybody again here for taking care of our guests. Thanks to our guests. Thanks to our sponsors. Thanks to Chad back at the station. But most of all, thank you for listening to this week's edition of Coach's Corner, live from Hardee's on K104 and online at RJBroadcasting.com.